up, sports fans. Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
And now, broadcasting live from Las Vegas, the Snake Sports Talk Show with Jake Silva starts now.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we are ready. We are live on a Thursday here on the Snake Sports Talk Show, wherever and however you may be watching and listening. Thanks for making us part of your evening. We got so much going on. Jason is joining us. Well, how about those Dodgers? I mean, it just never gets any better than that whenever you got Shohei Ohtani just giving us a show. But I also hear there is a new star in Dallas after today. That was an interesting.
Dak Prescott's days are numbered.
Is my take kind of coming a little bit into fruition here?
I mean, he's got one more year left on his contract after this next year. Joe Milton is a rookie for 2 more years. Like after this year's up, Dak's got 1 more year left, and I think all of the guaranteed money would be paid out to his contract. They would be taking a $60 million hit, but if they do decide to move on to the rookie and everything, he'll be on a rookie contract for 2 years, and then you can see what he's got. You know, give Dallas another weapon, give him a decent running back, and then go from there and see what Joe Milton can do.
I just absolutely love it when the proof is in the pudding, the minute that this ends up coming out. So let's talk about that. So the Dallas Cowboys, we've been talking about them, and like we mentioned before, because again, why would we be talking about the Cowboys? The reason of it is because there's always something that's interesting that's going on there. So just earlier today, and I just checked it out on my phone, was the Dallas Cowboys have gotten a young quarterback. They went and got Joe Milton from the New England Patriots, who I would argue is going to be one that I'm excited to watch the most. And the reason of it is because I think the kid's got some stuff. I've watched him in his days at Tennessee, and I've watched exactly what he can do, what he possesses. And I think as he grows throughout all of the progressions, he's going to be a very good star quarterback. Okay, he was one of my top 10 draftees last year. And believe me, I will have a top 10 of draftees this up-and-coming year because it's so loaded and there's a lot of really good defensive and running backs in this class that I got to really figure out. But in the end, Dallas got themselves a quarterback in a 7th-round pick. Now, the only thing is that this is a 5th round. So, unlike Joe Milton, because they had to at least match the value. Because Joe Milton, he went in the 3rd round. So there was a part of it that they really had to figure that out. So it is crazy. It's crazy to me of how they would pull this off. But Dallas, like what we were saying before, are they really invested in Dak Prescott? Sounds to me like a move like this is probably what will tell you he's not going to be a Dallas Cowboy. That's what it's going to come down to. As much as I like Dak Prescott, and I think he's also very productive, and he could do a lot of things right, and he's also very good at the podium, but this stuff in Dallas is just never, ever making any sense. And at the same time, they go into the playoffs, and then their 1st-round exits. Okay, so Dak, since his rookie year, has only had at least a couple playoff wins. That's it. But since then, hasn't been able to smell the NFC Championship and let alone actually get their foot in the door in the Super Bowl. They haven't. So, like I was saying, you got to get a young quarterback in here. But with Joe Milton on this roster, tells me a lot. They're probably not going to take Shedeur. But I think it's going to be interesting for what Dallas does next. Because remember, you've got Michael Parsons, who wants $200 million on his contract. And especially with some of the antics that he does on his podcast and everything else that also shapes up around him. I mean, he's a very good player. Do I think he's very impactful? Absolutely. But is he to the point where he's perennial, like, let's say, Myles Garrett? I don't think so. But I do think he's good enough to be a very good edge rusher. If you put him in the right spots, he's going to generate your pressures. He's going to generate your sacks. Okay? That's just what Micah's going to do. But the predicament you're having to deal with is just like Chase mentioned earlier up on and on the show. You got to deal with the dead cap hit. You got to find a way to make valuable getbacks from some of those draft compensations. You got to. Because otherwise, you're going to be kind of dead in the water for the next couple of years with this. And you've got Philadelphia, you got Washington that's already getting better. I'm questionable about the New York Giants, but the Dallas Cowboys, as of today, you go and get a quarterback like Joe Milton, who is a hot commodity out there. I think he'll be very, very good. And at the same time, you get someone like Brian Schottenheimer. He will utilize all of Joe Milton's strengths. Okay, he has the deep ball accuracy. He's also somebody that really utilizes his legs. And he's also somebody that I think, in an essence, kind of has a bigger body build, and he has a better upside than I think Dak has. Okay, it's nothing against Dak, and he's very productive. And I think with where it's going with Joe Milton, you actually might get a lot more than you think. So I think it's interesting. Now, again, it's hard to think about this after you let you go and get Jonathan Mingo for a 4th rounder, which was interesting. But, you go and get him at a 7th rounder, and you go and get a 5th. I mean, you give up a 5th. It's not seemingly so bad. And a lot of people know your depth is usually drafted possibly in like the 3rd, but then all the way down to the 7th round. That's usually where it's at. And they're going to need depth. So I think it's interesting. But again, like I said before, my take on Dak Prescott and him potentially being moved, it's getting much more spicier by the minute. And I think, honestly, if he gets traded away, watch that no trade clause be waived. And that's where Dallas, you now got to start talking business from here. Because I know you're not sold on Dak. I know that it's more of a business move with this because you got to get draft compensation. You're going to have to eat the dead cap money, but it can happen. It could definitely happen, usually on these draft nights. So a little bit later on, we're going to talk more about Major League Baseball because I actually have a snippet, and I think this is actually really, really good. And thanks to our guys from MLB Network who actually talked to one of the makers in one of Major League Baseball's bat companies, Marucci, and talking about the torpedo bats. So we'll get into that a little bit later on. But I look at a lot of these teams right now that have gone off to hot starts right now in already in the month of April. And the Dodgers are already 8-0. Okay, they started it once they were up in Tokyo in that series against the Cubs. Then they go and they play the Detroit Tigers, swept them, and they just swept the Atlanta Braves. And the Braves are at an 0-7 start. Arguably the worst start for any major league team. And by the way, teams that usually start 0-7, usually it's harder for them to get into the postseason. But I'm watching the Marlins, and I'm watching a bunch of other teams be very, very good. So I think it did kind of take me by surprise. I didn't think it was going to be this terrible of a start, but Atlanta's got to figure it out. And I mean, I know that they're missing Ronald Acuna, and they're missing a couple of other impactful pieces, but this is why you have to address those problems. This is why that the trade deadline is so crucial in these types of situations. But I look at the Padres, and I look at the Diamondbacks, and hell, I'm even looking at the San Francisco Giants in the NL West, and man, what an interesting start it has been to them. Eugenio Suarez already is corking the long ball. And so the Diamondbacks might actually be pretty interesting in the National League. They might actually be a postseason team once again. But there's just no stopping this Dodger pitching. There's just not. And there's no stopping this lineup either. Okay. They were down 5-0 last night. And all of a sudden they came back and walked it off 6-5. Oh, kudos to Shohei Ohtani giving us a show. But man, the Dodgers are just unbeatable. They're untouchable. And again, whether you do or you don't have a torpedo bat, it doesn't matter to them. In fact, two of arguably Major League Baseball's most perennial players between Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge, they don't even swing the torpedo bats. Why? They're just that good of specimens of players. Okay, so why would they even need like torpedo bat? So they already, because this is the thing. Aaron Judge, every time he's up in that bat, like everywhere he swings, it's literally like a toothpick in his hands. So I don't see the point in really having the torpedo bats. But this Dodgers lineup, I mean, think about it. They got Michael Conforto. They re-signed Tommy Edman. These are like guys that I could be seeing playing with the St. Louis Cardinals and somewhat of the New York Mets, maybe even the Miami Marlins. These are just guys that I think, personally can be very productive in some areas. But would it be the same? No, not really. But with the Dodgers, it all makes sense. And so the snippet from last night, which I thought was classic, and here it was, last night's game with Shohei Ohtani.
High fly ball to center field. Harris is back. Ohtani, inevitable. High fly ball.
It's just incredible that we have arguably one of the most perennial and I think one of the greatest starts really to any career, like just in baseball general, whether it's in Japan or whether it's in the United States. But Shohei Ohtani just knows exactly how to light up a crowd. In fact, like it just makes Dodger baseball more interesting than anything else. Because usually it would be the lights, it would be the weather, it would just be the iconic stadium, or it would just be listening to Vince Scully on one of your old 1970 radios. Okay, that's usually how it was. But I think Shohei Ohtani just makes it even more interesting to just watch a Dodger game. And like I said, I was happy enough to witness it 3 times last season. And you bet your ass I'm going to be witnessing it once again this upcoming season when they come to Coors Field in the Rockies. But look, I think with this Joe Milton thing, it's coming more.
He was a 6th rounder, by the way, not a 3rd rounder.
A 6th rounder. So there's, yeah. So you think about it, for a 6th rounder to at least get a value of the 5th round, that's pretty good. That should tell you exactly where he's going up at in his progression. But it's like we talked about, like, are they really invested in Dak Prescott? I know there's a lot of dead cap money, but think about the Denver Broncos. They've had to deal with dead cap money. But Bo Nix was the outlier that saved him and got him into the postseason with Sean Payton. And there's question marks around Brian Schottenheimer. But as long as you've got a very good defense, you got Micah Parsons, who's on his stuff, maybe there shouldn't even be that much of worry. But again,
if you get off the Dak contract, that's like $60 million you can spend elsewhere to get other players.
There's such a thing as salary retention. Those things exist. So if you could get a team that arguably needs a quarterback, then go get him. I mean, that would be the one thing. And at the same time, if they could deal with the salary retentions, let them deal with it. Because at the end of the day, you're getting the draft compensation like we've talked about, and you can load up the roster any and every way you can, and you got a 7th round pick there. So
I don't want him in Cleveland. No, I'm being serious because Dak is like 32, 33 years old. He's had a slew of injuries, and we've dealt with the quarterback already that's had a slew of injuries, and he's so expensive that I don't want to deal with that. I want us to draft young and, build the roster around him, and then also save some money in the long run to where, like, if this guy works out, then he's your guy that you pay in the future and everything. Because I want us to go young. I do not want us to pick up a veteran like Dak Prescott if he becomes available.
No,
Unless he's released and everything, then we can, negotiate a smaller contract and everything. But I want a guy that is young, like in his early to mid 20s, and then we can work with him from there. Not a guy who's like 32 and on the back end of his career who's had 4 injuries.
But then again, we've witnessed Dak be productive when he's not throwing over 35 times a game. And we've also seen that when he has a healthier O-line. We've also seen that when he has a more productive run game. So I'm just saying this. I mean, because I go back to what the Atlanta Falcons did. I mean, granted, it is Kirk Cousins. And even Kirk Cousins is up and on the tail end of his career. But yet, you got Michael Penix, and you're going to start the season with him. You're going to see with what he's got. I just look at it because Cleveland, for years and years, has had a hard time when it comes to drafting and developing quarterbacks. They've had that for a long time. The only one that I think what was difficult about the Baker Mayfield situation was he was taken number 1, but eventually over time he grew. And that's why now he's so productive in Tampa. But I mean, I just thought it was really interesting. We're going to talk a little bit about Jimmy Haslam too, because apparently there's something else that he ended up saying. It seemed like it was all good on the road, but then there's a fork that's thrown in there, and I didn't like the comment. I really didn't like it. But
about Myles Garrett, why not?
Yeah, well, you'll see why. You'll see why. Coming up next, but I'm going to save the best for last. But again, it's going to break down a little bit more of the torpedo bet. So all of these conspiracy theorists that think it's all in the bat, well, we've got the perfect technology, we got the science, and we also have great hand makers who know exactly what to do with some of these bats. There's going to be a snippet on that one here in just a moment, but I just truthfully think that the Minnesota Vikings, I don't know what seems to be going on from there, whether JJ's ready to go or not. But my biggest thing is I think JJ McCarthy is going to be fine. And I will lay it all here up on the table right after the break. Well, we've been talking about it, folks, but boy, March Madness has been so much fun for us, and we know we're near to the end in the Final Four, which means it's your last chance to at least get in on the fun at BetUS.com during the Final Four in the National Championship for college basketball in the March Madness tournament. It's been a lot of fun up to this point. Who do you believe is going to represent in the national championship, and who will win it all and be crowned champion? It's been a great year. But also, swing into the spring with Major League Baseball bets as well. We've got those opened up all season long. And also draft picks, positions, and more. BetUS has it all just for you. When you go online, they will have your very own, when you sign up, your very own account manager to give you the best of what BetUS has to offer you. With the most award-winning sports book in 30 years, with all the best top bet lines, prop bets, and so much more, BetUS has everything that you could possibly offer, and casino entertainment on top of it all. Go online to BetUS.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Seek therapy in your respective states. BetUS doesn't want you to gamble irresponsibly while using it and getting on the edge of your game. When you sign up $50 or more into your deposit in the first 3 deposits, that matches all the way up to $2,000 in winnings. So get in on the action. That means triple the fun at BetUS.com. BetUS, where the game begins.
Want to find your seat for the event of your choice but can't get one that fits your desire or your budget? Well, my friends, SeatGeek has you covered. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Snake Sports Talk Show. With a list of over hundreds of events to choose from, SeatGeek will assure you that you won't miss your seat with the amazing view of your choice at the most affordable price. Whether it's looking for your best seat in the house of your favorite sports team, finding live concerts to get you closer to your favorite artist, or enjoying your spot at your favorite live shows, comedies, and more. SeatGeek has it all just for you. Go online to SeatGeek.com or download the app on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. And as a special offer before checkout, use promo code SNAKESPORTS and save yourself $20 off of your purchase of your first ticket, and experience why SeatGeek is the most trusted ticketing app for your next event. Remember, that's SeatGeek.com and download the app on your phone with promo code SNAKESPORTS for $20 off and find your seat with SeatGeek.
Snake Sports Talk Show is sponsored by Muscle Tech, with hundreds of supplements and vitamins to choose from, all packed with 100% all-natural proven ingredients. You can be sure that Muscle Tech will give you the edge and the boost to train and look like your fit and healthy best, whatever your goals are. Try Muscle Tech today and use promo code SNAKESPORTS to save 30% off your purchases.
So, the Minnesota Vikings, I don't know what seems to be happening up in Minneapolis. I mean, right now, the Twins are not off to a very good start in Major League Baseball. But besides that fact, the Minnesota Vikings know we got to figure out with what's going on with J.J. McCarthy, whether or not. And so the rumor buzzes, and Diana Rossini was talking about this earlier, when it came to J.J. McCarthy's health. And mostly it's more about the second surgery. That's the part that's got everybody right now up and in the air. How good can J.J. McCarthy be? Well, we saw the sample size in the preseason. Okay, and he's capable of being accurate. He's capable of throwing the deep ball, which is good for guys like Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson. Also, when you got TJ Hawkinson and multiple others. So, J.J. McCarthy, in my opinion, was built to be a gamer. And he was built to be a winner. When you watch him and Jim Harbaugh in Michigan, I mean, Jim Harbaugh builds toughness in a lot of these players, and that's including J.J. McCarthy. So when a lot of people were questioned about how good is he and what he could possibly do in this league, I think J.J.'s really is the real thing. Most people don't even see it that way. They feel like, honestly, I would sign Aaron Rodgers. The last thing that you need is the Minnesota Vikings be held hostage by someone like Aaron Rodgers, who's clearly checked out. Okay, I think he loves football, but we have been in Aaron Rodgers' story for a long, long time. And he's been taking retreats. He's just telling you how it is. He's never going to change. And why would Minnesota honestly want that? And you've got a very good roster that's only going to get better from here. And by the way, Brian Flores, last year's defense with Andrew Van Ginkel and Jonathan Grenard and multiple others was pretty damn good. Now, it may not have been all-time elite, but it was pretty damn good considering the fact that he was impactful as to why Minnesota went 14-3. Okay. Many things that it will tell you about Minnesota's decisioning when it comes to quarterback. Now, they don't want the ego of J.J. McCarthy really to kind of get into his head if they say, he is our starter, we're moving forward with him. They wanted to make it a little bit of a competition. But we know with Kevin O'Connell, he's kind of got a little bit of a stingy mindset because we know with what Kevin O'Connell was when he had Kirk Cousins as his quarterback, and we also saw him with Sam Darnold. So I think, I truthfully think he is all in on this build with J.J. McCarthy. I mean, it's why they took him, because they knew that there was going to be a future draft pick right there at the end of this thing. But we knew that Sam Darnold was going to be that one-hit wonder. Now, Sam wanted to stay in Minnesota, so that is a factual statement. He wanted to stay in Minnesota, and he wanted to actually, take the league minimum, but Minnesota was like, we're moving forward with J.J. McCarthy. That's our plan. Said it for everybody. And I think, truthfully, they're going to pawn this build. That's what you usually have to do when you think about the future. It usually sucks. It's hard, but that's how some of these businesses are. Okay, they want to think about the future. And Minnesota is in a very good prime spot where they've got really good defenders I like. They've got very good offensive weapons. They're capable of scoring up points. So that's why I think, Minnesota, as long as they are clear upon this, I just want to know for myself with the health of J.J. McCarthy's surgery. And I think that's what the whole case is. They don't know about it at all yet, but I'm telling you, if it's the second surgery, that may be the reason. But we've got to watch, camps. We got to watch it all. Okay, and usually that will determine it. Whenever you're in OTAs or whenever you're up in camps, that is going to truthfully determine whether or not J.J. McCarthy will be the starter in 2025 for the Minnesota Vikings. Chase with the news.
This is the Hot Press.
I like to tell everybody, just kind of hold your breaths together because, again, I do believe, though, if it's the second surgery and it may be that rehab, that's probably why Minnesota's kind of teetering with this thing. But,
Yeah.
because, again, you want a healthy build. You also want to make sure you have a healthier offensive line in front of you. Now, Christian Darrisaw, he's coming back past the injury from last year. Now, they did lose Cam Robinson. Still,
They got Ryan Kelly and Will Fries though too.
So they fixed up a little of that interior O-line. So anything is possible from here with Minnesota. But again, if I saw the sample sizes of J.J. McCarthy and it tells me he is the real deal, I'm not going to shy away from it.
And with it being an MCL rather than an ACL, that's why they're not really concerned about it and everything. Right. And they know that if he can heal up, then it'd be good. But let's go into go ahead.
My last thing is that I just would not want to be trapped with someone like Aaron Rodgers. I won't do it. I've already seen this before. And why would the Minnesota Vikings even waste the time? It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, let's go into another, era of college football this year. And I know that, it's too early to be talking about that. But
never too early.
all of the spring games have, are almost finished up. And Ohio State had their scrimmage. Yeah. And right now, Julian Sayin has not looked good for Ohio State. They said Lincoln Keenholz has been looking a lot better. And Tavian St. Clair has gotten some reps too. And the one thing I hate that Ryan Day always puts off is he does not give the freshmen a chance to see what they can do unless they are a game changer like a Jeremiah Smith. So I think that what you should do, but I think people are overreacting. I think Julian Sayin is getting his feet wet because he hasn't really gotten major reps and gotten to be a starter. And I think that, he's also trying to build chemistry with this new offense, getting a new offensive coordinator, an entirely new offense in general, and a new offensive line, and then a new defense with a new defensive coordinator. I think that you got to have time for him to gel. I think he'll be just fine.
So with Ohio State, because like I said before, I think, last year winning the Natty, you knew they were going to do it. But as far as that offense and defense was stacked up for them, I mean, Jack Sawyer, and then you have Caleb Downs, who was arguably one of the best safeties there. That was pretty damn good. Okay, and now you're coming into a year where you're going to lose some of those impactful defensive players. I think Ohio State does take a slight step back in per se, but again, all because you're here developing a lot of these youngsters. You're trying to figure out if Julian Sayin is going to be that initial build at quarterback, because then you got Tavian St. Clair. So to me, it's I think because the thing that I think were the positives about Julian Sayin is that he has very good pinpoint accuracy. And it takes time to really develop that and build those relationships with his offensive weapons. But then, of course, it's is he capable of throwing the deep ball? Can he basically move out and be mobile on those spots? Because, again, especially when you're in a physical conference like the Big Ten, it's going to require a lot of you having to evade and kind of, really kind of think instinctively with how you're going to manage that offense. So I believe, and I know that too, even with the coordinators changing, because now Chip Kelly's back in the pros. So you got to think new blueprint on offense, Ryan Day now has to kind of fix up with what he already had stacked for him last year, winning the national title. Again, I'm just excited more to just see more of Jeremiah Smith build. That's really what I'm looking forward to.
He got beefier too.
But you got to get that quarterback up to speed with it because, again, in order to, we already have made that assumption. He's going to be a first-round draft pick. So, but again, we would just love to see a little bit more of those highlights from Jeremiah Smith next year.
I'm not really too concerned about Julian Sayin because he was recruited by Georgia heavily, and he originally committed to there and then decommitted and went to Alabama because of Nick Saban. And then when he left, he decided to go to Ohio State. And if he's good enough for Kirby Smart and Nick Saban, he'll be good with Ohio State. And I'm telling you what, if Saban and Kirby Smart both like this guy, then he's going to be good, in my opinion. I think he just needs to get up to speed, having a brand new running back room, brand new wide receiver taking over for Ibuka. It's going to be Cardinal Tate and Chris Henry. And then you've got, just a brand new offensive coordinator with Brian Hartline also working with the wide receivers. It's going to take some time, and I think that by the time the season starts in September, I think he'll be up to speed and ready to go. Now, moving on to baseball, the Guardians, I think that they always start off slow. Always in April or March and a little bit of April. They usually don't start picking it up until May, which I'm not too concerned with. But the one thing I have noticed is our starting pitching is horrible. We cannot wait for Shane Bieber to come off the DL. And, I know that our bullpen was always our strongest suit, and they're looking a little rough around the edges this year too. So I think that we need, Chris Antonetti, if we want to stay in it, we have got to pick up some pitchers by the trade deadline, or we're gonna be in third or fourth place in the division this year.
So I think there's some very underrated starting pitchers that we know come the trade deadline that can be very much trade bait for most of these teams like Cleveland. But yeah, I watched a couple Cleveland Guardian games. Outside of Jose Ramirez just mashing the ball, and then
Tanner Bybee and Kyle Manzardo. Those are the only three guys.
Yeah, hell, even if you got one bomb from Stephen Kwan, so like I said before, and the interesting point was once Josh Naylor was off this roster, that was going to be a bit of my concern because that is somebody who could obviously crowd the plate and then provide runs driven in that I know was important for Cleveland, whether it be a home run or it be in the gaps. But yeah, starting pitching hasn't really looked that great. So, but again, you are in the start of this season. So a lot of adjustments can happen during this period. But if you do, get a starting pitcher, I'm just trying to think of off the top of my head who are some pretty good trade bait guys. I could kind of see Sonny Gray be that guy because let's be honest about St. Louis. This is just a disaster. And I've said it before, I don't think they're going to go into that stretch where they're going to get hot. You're hoping that Nolan Gorman and Brendan Donovan, and hell, you let a lot of guys walk out. Paul Goldschmidt's gone. So I don't know with St. Louis, but he could be a benefactor if in fact, Cleveland was to take him in. He'll be back in the American League again. And you know what's funny? He's already had his history in Ohio anyway because he pitched in Cincinnati. So it's not like, he'll be a stranger of any sort. So I think he'd be a pretty good pickup. But yeah, I think somebody of that caliber could be somebody that Cleveland could be on the eye for come the trade deadline in the All-Star.
Yeah, I think that we've got a lot of, pieces in the minors that they're trying to figure out the rotation. Tristan McKenzie went to the bullpen because they want him to work on his stuff a little bit, and then maybe he'll go to the rotation. I know that Shane Bieber is supposed to be back by mid to end of May and everything, so that'll be a huge boost to our starting rotation and everything. So I'm not really too concerned about it. It's just Tanner Bybee is our ace, and he's been, the rock of the group in terms of our starting pitching. But I know that, in terms of hitting, Kyle Manzardo's replaced Josh Naylor just fine as the first baseman / DH, and he's, lighting it up in terms of how that's going. So I'm excited for that. In other news, we've got a lawsuit that is potentially going to be filed by the city of Tampa to the Rays owner because he promised a brand new stadium for them and then went back on his word and now is just refixing Tropicana Field because, you know, they knew that the revenue was going to come with the new stadium in Tampa, and the city was looking excited for it. They were ready to have like an indoor-outdoor stadium, and now they went back on it. So they're filing a lawsuit against the Rays owner.
Yeah, I saw earlier there were some posts about Tropicana Field that doesn't even have the roof. Like it still has it's still got the catwalk and it still has like all of that up top, but the whole roof is just absolutely destroyed. And I don't know. Like to me personally, I mean it could have happened either way with Tampa Bay because I mean Tropicana Field, like I said before, the catwalk's the one part that I know that kind of gives me irks because any time that I would watch a ball get launched up in the air, is it going to hit like the part of that catwalk and then all of a sudden it just falls right there up onto the field? Like, that's the one thing I'm not so much of a fan of. But, I mean, if you could, to me, truthfully, if you're not going to build a new stadium, the hope is that you actually make some very good positive renovations then, if that be the case. Because, again, you are in a prime spot where tropical storms are meant to happen. But if you could at least get better renovations, maybe people would forget about it. But I think truthfully, because again, them and the A's right now are both kind of going through this weird time where they're playing at Steinbrenner Field and the A's are playing up with their fellow Sacramento River Cats affiliate. So it's just a weird time for both of those teams. But I think Tampa, and by the way, Tampa hasn't even missed a step. Same old Tampa again. But even if they're playing, on a minor league field, but yeah, if you make positive renovations, I think people will at it pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too worried about it. I think if you made the positive renovations, like you said, people would come. But I know that the city of Orlando has put in a proposal to move the Rays down there and build a stadium for them if their owner doesn't want to and make them the Orlando Rays. And I've been hearing talks about that for the past 3 years now, and so we're gonna see how that goes. Moving on to
that was a minor league team, by the way.
Yeah,
it was years ago. I mean, because we all remembered. I think we've all watched that Dennis Quaid movie, The Rookie, because they were initially. That's how it started. But yeah, maybe they could have it back again.
I mean, maybe it would be interesting to see how it goes. Moving on to the football aspect of things. The Browns have been a lot in the news recently because of Jimmy Haslam's remarks to a big swing and a miss, and that they want to go younger in the quarterback room. But it's also been reported by Mary Kay Cabot and a couple others that Jimmy Haslam's taking a step back this year in terms of the decision making. He's going to let Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski pick who they want to run the offense and pick who is going to fit this offensive scheme, whether it be running back with that 33rd pick, whether it be quarterback with that 33rd pick, or if they even want to choose a quarterback in the top 4 picks and everything. If they want to get Will Howard in the 4th round and everything, then he's going to let them do that.
Yeah, so so that there wasn't quite that wasn't the issue that I had with Jimmy Haslam. I was very glad to hear he took accountability for what had happened and he was moving out of the way of it. But did you hear the comment that he said about Myles Garrett with as far as why they paid him the money? He basically said that we're going to pay you this high money, then you better be going out there and showing us some leadership up and out there up and on the field. And I was like, when has he not shown any leadership? Isn't that the reason why that he came out and said what he said? Because he wants to win? Because again, I felt like Jimmy was fine after he made that comment of taking accountability, but then when you came out and surfaced that comment, I was like, Jimmy, what are you doing?
Well, it's because they said that he's been late to like workouts, been late to like meetings and everything, and really hasn't like taught some of the young edge rushers when they brought him in and everything, or like shown them his tricks and techniques and stuff like that.
Who truthfully would he have had to build around with his perennial stature? Seriously, I'm not even joking.
I mean, I know that, but like also the part of being late to meetings, being late to workouts and everything, not showing up to certain things.
The type of meetings.
They did not specify.
So that's what they won't tell you. They won't specify the type of meeting. Okay, first of all, if you're going into mandatory camps, that is mandatory. Okay, no excuses from there. It's mandatory for a reason. But if you got these optional like OTAs and you got like these other small camps that you don't mind being there, but it's not even like they're making it up in a big deal. I only say this because Myles Garrett is such a perennial player that I'm just like, why would I truthfully scrutinize someone that I know has given me double-digit sacks and a guy that has literally been like he's unstoppable at his position versus someone like Kyler Murray, by the way, who we scrutinized because he doesn't look at the playbook. He's too busy going, waiting for the next Call of Duty Warzone to come out. Like, come on, what are we doing? Like,
I think it's also like a tactic or a strategy to like, help him get motivated more and help him stay focused and everything. I don't think it's really a jab at him per se, or maybe it is. I don't know, but it could also be
to get 350 tackles and at least like 18 sacks.
I don't know. I don't know what it is and everything. I don't know. Like to me, you could look at it both ways. You could look at it as something like that you're just trying to poke the bear, or you're trying to feed the bear and make him a lot better.
Listen. If Stan Kroenke literally said that about Aaron Donald, what do you think Aaron Donald would be doing?
He'd be in the weight room getting motivated and be like, F you.
He would be literally shoving Stan Kroenke through a wall. Hey, come on, dude. I'm not doing that. I look at someone like Myles Garrett, who's literally got biceps bigger than my head. Am I really going to do that to him? Come on. Look, all I'm saying is, I've seen with what I needed to see with Myles Garrett, and he's just perennial, okay?
Yeah.
And again, I haven't seen anyone of up to his stature. Maybe like we talked about, maybe if you have an Abdul Carter, maybe you have a Mason Graham. Someone like that, I think it's quite possible. But I don't think that there was anybody to his stature that he would have built around with that could have given him an extra like secondary pressure guy. Like, because here's the thing, JOK is good. Okay, JOK is good.
He's a great linebacker.
Yeah, but we know that like injuries have played a problem in it. But at the same time, he's up there in the linebacker position. He's the one up on the back end. Okay, so that's the only thing. But if I don't have somebody like for example, if I don't have something of like a duo tandem, like with what I watched with like Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa at one point, or if I have, someone of that stature, then what is there really for Myles Garrett to do?
He also might not play this year, JOK might, because last year when Derrick Henry, he went to go tackle Derrick Henry, and like he compressed his spine, and it like sent shockwaves all the way from his neck down to his, like all the way down his back. And so, they said he might not play this year, but he should be ready for next year if he, continues to rehab.
Great linebacker.
Great linebacker. The dude was a baller when he had a fully healthy season, because his rookie year, he broke his foot.
He was a great player there.
Yeah, I mean, he broke his foot his rookie year. His second year, announced I think he had the most tackles in the NFL. He also, they put him up on the line, right behind the defensive line, and he got a few sacks going straight up the middle a few times and everything. And he could also play coverage. When he's healthy, he's going to be one of the best linebackers in this league, and I'm excited for him to come back. I hope he can.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Jace with the news.
This is the Hot Press.
So I was thinking about this because we had two signings that had happened earlier here today. So the Raiders have gifted Geno Smith a 2-year, $75 million contract extension. And just to overlap with the one he's currently under right now with the Seahawks. By the way, the value. Here's what's crazy about this. The Raiders offered him less than the Seahawks did. He's actually getting 37.5 per year. And the Seahawks were trying to give him up to 40 for the 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Think about that. So I don't think Geno Smith, in my opinion, do I think he's overrated of a player? I just think because he was such a journeyman in the league. I mean, the Jets were just atrocious. Everyone will tell you that. But when you go into a system and someone that's trustworthy, who literally like believed in you and gave you all the tools and gave you exactly the support you needed. I mean, Pete Carroll, we know Pete Carroll tends to be a loyal guy, but he wasn't so loyal once Russell Wilson left the building. And then by the time you get in Geno Smith and they make the playoffs that first year, like that was incredible. And you had Tariq Woolen, who nobody even paid attention to, and he was a big hit as a late rounder. And then you think of Kenneth Walker. So the thing about this is with the Raiders, it's hard for people to understand if they're going to take a quarterback or not in this draft. And I
mean, after this, I don't think so. I think they're going to build the roster from like the ground up. So maybe pick Ashton Jeanty with that 6th pick and then build the defensive side of the ball because Pete Carroll loves his defense.
And Pete Carroll's is a trench guy too.
Yep.
Like Harbaugh. So that's why I'm like, I mean, because I watched Marshawn Lynch and I've watched Kenneth Walker, and it makes all the sense in the world. Now, a lot of people have asked about, because it's funny, Tom McShay was on the Herd the other day, and he was talking about what is personally the best positions right now in the draft. And Tom McShay said D-line and running backs.
And tight end.
Those are the best. And tight end is also one of his other honorable mentions. But he said D-line and running backs. Because you'd also want to know what's funny. People were thinking about this. With the resurgence of running backs coming back after last year, somebody was talking about, is there a resurgence of the linebacker position coming back? Because we're actually kind of tending to get back into that tough, grit, trench warfare type football again. Because again, everybody wanted to see quarterbacks run up the scores with their wide receivers. If you got no left tackle and you don't even have your interior offensive line figured out and you don't have enough time and you don't even have a run game.
Checkdowns.
All of those are meaningless. That's why I'm like, you got to get a healthy run game. You got to get a running back. That's why, like, a lot of people are like, is it nuts that Jeanty would be up there in the top 10? Because you got to think about it. Like, we haven't seen that big of an impactful player since LaDainian Tomlinson. And I loved watching him as a very elusive running back. We've seen several of them over the years. I mean, hell, Sean Alexander wasn't even much. Like, he was very good at Alabama, but then once he got into the Seahawks, like, he was a different running back. And there's so many of them, but it's like, it's hard to predict really who will have early successes because we know with how much durability they've got in the tires and how long that they'll last.
So I'm gonna do a prediction of something crazy. I'm gonna say something very, very crazy that you may think that it's weird, but Ben Johnson is a very, very big, huge fan of the run game. Getting a player like Ashton Jeanty could really help that Bears offense and Caleb Williams. And here's what I'm proposing. We could see to where the Bears and Ryan Poles might contact the Browns and pick up Ashton Jeanty with the number 2 pick, and the Browns trade back to pick 10. And I'm saying that now because if Ben Johnson really likes Ashton Jeanty and he thinks he could be as good, if not better, than Jahmyr Gibbs, and he knows that the Raiders are going to want to get a running back, then I don't think that they're going to trade with the Giants or the Patriots or even the Jags, because I know that, if you have a chance to get Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, or Mason Graham, those 3 picks they're not going to give up anything. Andrew Berry said he's going to listen to calls and been willing to trade back, and the Bears have 2 second-round picks. So I could very easily see them make it a move to trade up to the 2 spot to pick Ashton Genty.
So it's like I said, because it's like we talked about when it came to your draft compensation value. So that from there, because again, whether like we talked about, whether it would have been between Cleveland and Dallas or it would be Cleveland and Chicago, again, those spots from there is going to show you if you believe he is a generational player, then pull the trigger. And that usually, and it's not as easy as fans on the outside like to think when you're in the war room and you're in those conversations with the GM and the owner. It's really not that simple, because again, you are breaking down everything. You're breaking down the health, and then not to mention the play structure of your offense. And knowing Ben Johnson, in fact, Ben Johnson, he was actually talking about EPA, that new one. And it actually made a lot of sense. So when you think about so EPA, it's basically standing a little bit simpler as like efficiency. And what that is that you are not harping so much on a quarterback who throws a pick, but only when he throws it in the goal line. That's the only time that is crucial. But if you're throwing a pick, like think about it this way. Tom Brady, we know in Super Bowls, used to throw a pick. He made mistakes. But what defined him is drives. And that's where he ended up winning those Super Bowls. So that EPA stat line could actually be very valid into Tom Brady's case. And so when you think about that with some of these efficient quarterbacks, I mean, Patrick Mahomes could have a mistake. CJ Stroud could have a mistake. Many of these star quarterbacks could have a mistake. But ultimately, it's all about the drives, the efficiencies, and then not to mention how you are moving the chains with your offense, running the ball, passing the ball, getting the first downs, and eventually getting the scores. So interceptions, I mean, years ago, it used to be the nail in the coffin for everybody.
Yep.
Like, it was very daunting. It's what ended every game. That's not the case anymore unless if you're throwing that from the end zone. Now, if you do that, that's crucial because you needed a score, not a pick. But any time that you're like up and in the middle, like if you're in the second quarter and you throw a pick, big deal. We got the second half. Like we've seen a tale of 2 halves before. So that's why I was like, it just makes sense. But Ben Johnson, after hearing that, was actually a good thing for Chicago. Now that I start to think about it.
And it fits Cleveland too, because like if you look at it, you've got Chicago's got the 39th pick and the 40th pick, back-to-back picks.
They do.
And if you want, if Andrew Berry's sitting there like, hey, you give us that 39th pick, we'll go ahead and give you 2. We'll take 10. You give us another late round pick this year and maybe a second rounder next year as well. You now have pick 10, pick 33, and pick 39. You can go get a defensive player because this is a defensive heavy draft. You can get like a Jalen Walker, a Mike Green.
You get a running back in that next round. You could
an offensive lineman if you want at pick 10. And like you said, get a running back at 33. And then maybe at 39, you can get like a Jackson Dart or maybe even a Jalen Milroe. I'd be okay if you got Jalen Milroe in like the 3rd round or even like a late second. But now you're sitting here like, okay, I got 2 second-round picks. I've got the number 10 overall pick. I can still get my defensive player. And then I got 2 picks to work with in the 2nd round and 2 picks in the 3rd round. I can build this team the way I want it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be too crazy to think about.
No, not at all. But I mean, could we say Jalen Milroe is still a lock?
I wouldn't say he's a lock. I really wouldn't, especially like because we are seeing the Steelers really like him, so we could see him, go at 33 in the 1st round because I know that if the Steelers really value him and they want him to sit, they're going to pick him in the first round because you've got that 5th-year option. So if you decide to sit him for 1 or 2 years, you have that 5th-year option. So now if you sit him for 2 years, you can play him for 3, figure out like, okay, now we're going to extend him or we're going to move on from him. And then if he falls or if Shador falls, he's going to go to the Steelers. That means Jackson Dart will be available at 33 for Cleveland. I feel like they really like him as well. So you could pick him at 33 and then go, pick up a wide receiver or a running back with that 39th pick. And you still got like Mike Green or somebody with that 10th overall pick. If Andrew Berry comes out of the draft with that, I'm going to be very, very happy.
Oh yeah. No, I would be very happy about that too. I thought this was interesting and I'm glad I saved the best for last up on this one. And, so, of course, everyone is trying to figure out what the deal is with these torpedo bats. So again, it's the hot talk because, of course, we also had the owners and the coaches meetings in Florida, and they were talking about all these rule changes, and they tabled the tush push. Well, you know what that means, right? And the Eagles representatives were trying to convince these owners, right? And because here's what's going to be the argument is they're going to be talking about injuries. They're going to be talking about injured players. They're going to be talking about this and that. But the Eagles are going to be like, well, what's the stat? What's the percentage? So then how could you say that how could you say that it is prone to that if you never gave me statistical numbers? And so that's the part that I think the Eagles are going to be harping on. But because it's tabled, it means it could be very likely it's going to get banned. Because what happens?
I'm all for it.
What happens is when this gets tabled, this is for all of our audience to understand. So when some of these rules they get tabled, it's going to lead on to the commissioner, Roger Goodell, and mostly what it's going to happen, and probably like for teams like the Green Bay Packers, they are going to harp, and he's going to listen, but ultimately, the longer that it gets, it's going to get banned. I mean, that's usually what happens. So the longer that it takes, when something is tabled like that, 9 out of 10 times it's going to get banned. So it may be a pretty horrible day for Philadelphia because and they're going to go through another wave of conversations with this because ultimately this is where now all the statistics and the data is going to show as to where they're going to support their case. So it is pretty incredible. But besides that fact, people were very controversial when it came to the torpedo bats. And so Kurt Ainsworth sat down with Greg Amsinger and Harold Reynolds discussing about the make of the torpedo bat. He's the CEO and he's the co-founder and CEO of Marucci Bats. So he's breaking it down, and for our audiences, hopefully we get picture. But if not, we'll have our audio. But I apologize for all of our listeners who cannot end up seeing it. But here is Kurt Ainsworth taking it away.
Does this technology, will it make average hitters great hitters? How would you answer that?
I think that's tough. I think it could make you a better hitter at certain levels, right? If you're a great player, it's almost like you're talking about golf and you're talking about blades and the cavity. I think it gives somebody that right now they're using a blade, it gives them a little bit more of a cavity to hit with. So we're not talking about making the barrel of the bat wider this way. We're talking about giving them a better hitting area, side to side. So I do think there'll be a lot of players that could perform better with this. I think this is not just a fad that'll come and go. I think there'll be some form of a torpedo bat that will last in the game for quite some time now.
Hey, Kurt, I'm really curious, having been a former major league pitcher and spent your life figuring out how to get hitters out. I want to make him hit it on the end of the bat. I want to get the guy jammed. How much has that knowledge helped you in talking with the guys that are doing the technology?
What people want to know is, does this
Look, the technology is far surpasses what I would think are on the field, and it's great to have that on field knowledge. Our master craftsman here was a former pitcher in the major leagues as well, Brett Laxton. So it's good to have guys that are around baseball, but the data these guys have access to now, they don't miss much, right, at all. And you have all these, NASA guys and MIT guys that are behind the scenes working with the clubs.
So tell us about how deep do they go with the technology? You're talking about guys from MIT. You're talking about all these guys. Yeah. What are they looking at? What numbers? What degree are they going to? They're looking at everybody's at bat, balls they foul off. What are they doing?
Yeah, they're looking at everything from, spin rates against them. They're looking at their swing speeds, their launch angles. They're looking at where the ball hits the bat more often. So if you can move the mass into where the ball hits more often, it gives them a better chance for success. And in certain ways, if you remove the end of the bat, it allows some of those balls to be fouled off as opposed to be put in play. They could be out. So it gives them a chance then to now hit the next pitch on the bigger sweet spot.
Now, does that make sense?
There's one thing that they did forget. He said that you're not looking at bats this way. You're looking at it this way to get the barrel of the bat. Actually, with the torpedo bats, you are seeing a slight difference on the barrel because they actually measured it. Because they measured it, you're seeing a 0.5 inch difference with the barrel width, which in baseball, a measurement like that goes a long way.
It does. And you know what? At least it's a slight. It's not something where it was like a drastic to where all of a sudden you just have this freaking axe wood of a bat,
Yeah.
So again, I think because when you hear this from a manufacturer like Marucci, and Marucci makes beautiful bats. I've swung a couple of them in my lifetime, and they're very smooth. The maples, all that. But it's crazy to know the type of technology and science we have today to literally figure that out. Because in the end, it's all aligning to make the game improved and better for TV ratings to go up. And then at the same time, look, you're not seeing these bats in some of these superstars like Aaron Judge or Shohei Ohtani swinging these bats, because why would they need to? In fact, it's actually kind of funny. What's crazy is last night, so Max Muncy, the third baseman, actually tested this torpedo bat, and he didn't like it. He tried it twice in 2 swings and said, I didn't like it. Because if you think of Max Muncy, right, you've watched his stance. He's the kind that is more of a closed hitter, but he has such pull angle. He just naturally, as a lefty, will pull the ball unless he decides to just kind of short swing it and just kind of poke it over to the left field. But when he swung his other bat, that was his regular, he went and hit the gap. So everybody has to understand and realize this slander of these torpedo bats is not the bat. Okay, it is often comfortability. It's also, because here's the other thing. We swung axe bats before, and the trajectory of the axe bat was to consistently keep your hands from very fast rolling over. It's all the way until the end of the swing, because what you're doing is that you are activating your core all from the lower half of your legs, and your hands are basically following through, but they're not rolling over, and that's why the axe bat was created. Mookie Betts and Pete Alonso, they swing these bats. You watch every time when Pete Alonso is up there getting ready to swing, you know how many times he just kind of goes like this? It's because his wrists have built so much muscle memory from those types of builds on the grip that's what he's looking for. But I just think it's truthfully remarkable with how much science that we have in it. But what's funny is I was actually talking to my old man about an hour ago before we started this show, and he's a diehard Dodger fan, and I've had him up on the show before, and I thought it was funny, but we talked about it because even for myself, being a baseball and an adult softball player, I remember in adult softball, they used to be measuring the amount of compression, the amount of pressure on the composite bats. So if you were well out of range of pressure, you know what that meant? That meant your bat was getting banned. because there's a term for it. It's called shaving. If you shaved those composite bats, that you'll feel it. If you got because I think it goes up to like 28 to like a 30 ounce, but a 30 ounce would literally feel a lot like a 24. That's what they would feel like. Okay. So when you shave them, it's like feathers, but you also know what the cause of injuries are is whenever you get that trajectory pitch and you swing at it and the ball goes fast, it zooms. That's a shaved bat. That's illegal. And it hurts a lot of people. Like in my hometown of Las Vegas, we harped about it so much. We kept pushing pitcher safety, pitcher mask, pitcher gear, like especially up and on the legs. You know, I get guys that literally wear some of those lacrosse pads for their feet because that's what happens. Most of those comebackers usually will always come right at the shin or the knee, and it is painful. But like we talked about with George Brett and the cork bat, so I think we've just gotten so smart now these days that when we talk about spin rate, we talk about probabilities of breaking your bat on jam pitches. The game's just getting better and smarter. It's actually kind of funny. Cowherd was saying, it's like an old dog, right? Like your uncle who's like 75 years old. He went and got himself a Lambo, got himself a new girlfriend named Charisse. And then, he's upgraded. The old history of baseball literally upgraded itself. I thought that was great. That was actually fantastic work, right, from the CEO. That was great. And I love Marucci. Again, I have a soft spot for them. And I also have a soft spot for some Mizuno bats. Like some of these bat makers, they know. Like if you've got the right people, the right minds in those factories, that I would love to see a factory. I know Louisville Slugger in Kentucky, they have that whole thing, but I would love to see what goes into shaping and building those bats.
I've seen a DeMarini bat be made.
Yep, DeMarini's. Yep, yeah, it goes a lot. But again, I just think it's that piece was literally what shut down the whole controversy. It ain't just the bat; it sometimes comes from your batter. Because remember, you mentioned Ellie De La Cruz, and I told you how difficult at his stature is it for him to stand in the box. I mean, he's literally lanking himself in that damn thing.
Cavs just signed Chuma Okeke.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting. But yeah, I felt like Ellie De La Cruz was like, he can't sit in that box any other way. I feel like that is just years of like just working on your craft. And for him to like literally have the swing that he does. But boy, did you see that center field shot that he hit earlier? Oh my God. Yeah. But you know what's funny is that the only one who's got a similar stature closest to his is O'Neal Cruz in Pittsburgh. So ask yourself.
There was a guy a couple years ago for the Tigers. I can't remember his name. He was also a really tall guy.
Yeah. Oh, he
forgot his name.
Oh, yeah. No, he was a very, very tall guy. I remember when I watched Nate Fright when he was with the A's. You know, that guy literally had to squat a little bit in order for him to, like, just compact himself. And that was an Aussie, by the way. That was a guy who played in the Australian League. So
just like Bazana.
Oh, my gosh. But again, ask yourself, is it the archer or is it the arrow? Truthfully.
I mean, you could be the most accurate archer on this planet, but like your arrows could be, messed up. They could be obsolete. They could be whatever it is. But like you could be accurate as hell, hit the bullseye every time, but then you get different arrows and they could be faster. They could be more accurate.
But But think about this. If we're trying to make these work, in your opinion, okay, it could be high, whatever you answer. There's no wrong answer here. But in your opinion, in your mind, how long does it truthfully take to train and really be crafted with these bats?
Not long.
I just am like, are we taking away the training aspect from some of these athletes? I mean, think about it. How crazy would it be if the stickums on some of these gloves for these wide receivers, if they had more than the actual regulated amount? Don't you think we would have had a controversy by then? How in the hell is Quentin Johnston, somebody who's naturally dropping the ball so often, is now just catching them 10 out of 10 times? There would be various controversies after that. Because you know it. But that's the thing. But at least, like, a guy like Max Muncy, who's played this game and has attempted that bat twice, didn't like it, and then goes to his other bat, and then he gets a gap. Sometimes you just have to be able to be comfortable in your own skin. And it does take adjustment. It does. I mean, I could style my hair in any type of way that I want, but I like this one because I feel like I'm very professional and I'm very presentable.
I mean, it really just depends.
Oh, you just shaved your face, so I'm like, I know you got to be professional and presentable yourself too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but like what with the bat thing, like whenever I played baseball, we had to use the BB core bats. But like we had ones that were 33 inches, 32, 31. We had ones that were like you know, the ounces were like 1 ounce lighter and everything. And like, you know, is it the bat or is it the person? It's the bat.
But
like it could be the bat.
Remember though, when the time that BB core came out, the reasoning of it is because I don't know if it was like a certain aluminum or something like that, but those old school bats, I don't know if you remember swinging those, but those old ones before the BB cores came out,
they were light as hell.
Yeah, and then how far did the ball travel? Because that was controversial to college baseball. I remember when those BB cores were starting to become a big thing. And then when they finally got that out in college, it now started to hit every high school in America. Because again, I swung one in high school. And to me, truthfully, as long as I got the sweet spot of that bat and I'm training with it and I'm mastering my craft, then I'm okay. I've only got a few jobs to do. Just hit that ball to right field and drive in the 2 runs, maybe even 3. So that's really all that it comes down to. But I understand it. Chicks dig the long ball, all that stuff. I get it. But all I know is that true stitch heads out there would understand. I'd hope, as long as they're not just paying attention to their baseball cards and drinking their beers and trying to, tell me outlandish stuff that we're degrading the game. No, we're just making the game better. That's really all that we're trying to do. I would love to, be drawn to a baseball game like that. So, like I said, hey, I may see these in person when I'm in Colorado. I may. When I'm out there at Coors Field, hopefully, I was talking about this because next month, my good friend of mine I played high school baseball with, I've been paying attention. Hopefully, if he's called up to the Detroit Tigers, I'm going. And maybe I'll go early enough that I may be able to see just for myself that torpedo bat and literally feel it. That's it. That's it. God, can you imagine them making, because have you seen them where they've literally made the barrel of the bats, those
You're friends with the mud hens right now?
Yeah, well, yeah, I am. And he was actually an old high school teammate.
Jeez.
But he was very successful. And like I said, outside of the Bryce Harpers, the Chris Bryants, and the Joey Gallos and Jason Shreves, like he's pretty good. All it is it's just taking a chance.
What's his name?
Bly Madris. Yep. To me, I've said it several times. I said he reminds me a lot of Christian Yelich. Because
Ooh.
just the way he stands and how relaxed he is. Now, he does kind of get a bit twitchy when it comes to a swing, but I'm like, just slow it just an inch. That's all you got to do, because you have enough of that windmill type of swing for a lefty for that thing to be gapper gone, like effortlessly. But yeah, I've been trying to get him on the show too, and I'm still working on that because I would love to hear a lot of the journey through him, and I think it would be just so surreal. I think, you know what, I may end up submitting that video to my old high school because it would be so surreal. Nobody would probably remember who I am, but it's like, that's a Foothill alumni. Okay. And it's like that's A+. But yeah. But yeah, have you seen people like that craft those barrels of the bats, right? And they make them into like those tall glasses whenever you're drinking beer?
Yeah.
Maybe I should see if they can make one specially for those torpedo bats, and then I can drink. I could literally just have a sip for all of my my controversial, conspiracy theorists out there. My flat earthers around the world. All right, we got to get out of here, but I appreciate everybody for tuning in tonight. Some rain and snow here in Colorado, so just hope it's not going to be too crazy and brutal. But yeah, Dallas Cowboys got a quarterback. Who would have thought? But
quarterback of the future, QB1.
He should, and he better be. Appreciate everybody for dropping on by. With Chase and myself here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. Have a great night, and we'll see you guys on the next episode of the show. Take care, everyone, and we will see you soon.